I want to give big. When Jarryd Haynes come in, obviously, like his charges were the disgusting charges that I was talking about. Fiona, BNOG, appreciate you guys. And there was no way Jarryd was going to come into the main, not because he wasn't scared, it was because he was high profile. So for all you guys that know Salim Mehajer, he was the mayor. I think it was Auburn, or I don't know, it was one of the local Middle Eastern areas, but he was the mayor, yeah? Someone over here will tell me who he was mayor of. But when, Auburn it is. So Salim Mehajer, Murray, appreciate you guys. Thank you very much, ITPV. And when Salim Mehajer first come into prison, I was there in segregation when he turned up, yeah? And he was quiet, did his own thing, minded his own business. But again, like I always tell you guys, when someone comes into prison who has money, everyone starts gunning for that bloke, yeah? And obviously Salim Mehajer is known to have money, and if he didn't have much money, obviously everybody knew his family had money, all right? So Salim Mehajer comes in, doing his time, and I remember he was told he couldn't come into the main, all right? Appreciate you guys. And the reason he couldn't come into the main, Salim Mehajer, it wasn't because he was scared. It was because he was high profile. Because he was on the news on a weekly basis, and known for having money, the screws didn't want anything happening to him, because if something happened to him, it would be all over the news. Mo, we appreciate you, my man. Thank you, Triggz. So this is what happened with Jarryd Haynes, all right? When he come in, Jarryd Haynes went into to segregation. Let me tell you guys a funny story about Salim Mehajer before I continue with Jarryd Haynes, yeah? Come on, guys, tap it out, tap it out. 500,000 likes there, 500,000 to go. Let's go. All right. This funny story about Salim Mehajer, I was actually there when it happened, yeah? So he was talking to everyone, and obviously he was sending money here and there to a few boys that he got along with, yeah? But boys were already gunning for him, and I knew it because I could hear it, and I understand how prison works. They were all waiting for him to come out to the main. As soon as Salim Mehajer, if Salim Mehajer got out into the main at Silverwater, let me tell you something, he would have got, because they were all waiting for him, yeah? And it's not because they didn't like the guy, everybody wanted to make money, and Salim Mehajer was going to be that guy. So the funny story that I'm about to tell you guys is when I was sitting inside segregation, yeah, and there was a Middle Eastern guy who had been talking to him for a couple of weeks, and it got to a day where he asked Salim Mehajer finally for 10K. This is how it starts in prison, yeah. They play the friendly card, then they play the friend card, and then they play the brotherly card, and then that's when they ask for something. So the 10 grand, that's the day that I heard it, was when he said, bro, is there any chance that I can borrow 10K, you know, or if you could hook us up with 10K. It was along those lines. And I remember when I heard it, I was training, and when I heard it, I was like, ooh, this guy finally asked for money. And Salim Mehajer said to him, he goes, bro, look, I'll see what I can do, you know. He goes, right now, he goes, all my accounts are frozen. Like, he made his excuse to get out of us. And this is what everyone does with money, you know, like even if they got the money, they'll make excuses to get out of it, because they know once they hand over money, that's it. You're going to be handing over money for the rest of your legging. And if you don't hand over that dollar, you're going to get chopped. That's how it works. All right. So Salim said what he said. Old mate goes, yeah, all good, please. Like, just see what you can do. Like, you know, family's really in need. And I remember this happened for a couple of days, you know, and then it got to the next week. And he was still going, oh, bro, like, you know, did you see what you could do? And then Salim was like, bro, I told you, like my money's put away, like, you know, I gotta wait to see what I can do. I gotta speak to my lawyer, you know, like, don't worry, bro, like, I'll do my best, you know, to try to look after you, but I can't look after everyone. And then this guy was like, brother, I told you, as soon as you go to the main, my boys will take care of you. I told you, anything happens to you or anyone tries to touch you, our boys have got your back. No matter what jail you go to, you're going to be protected. This is how it works inside prison. Like Don't get me wrong, I've done the same thing. I've walked over to guys and I've said the same thing. If you want me to protect you at all these prisons that my guys are at, you have to fork out and help the Oibes. You know, I've done the same thing. So this guy wasn't doing anything different, and it's not illegal to do it. He was offering his help and protection to Salim. Salim, you could tell in his voice, he was getting frustrated, yeah? And he was like, nah, bro, like, I don't need nothing from anyone. Like, bro, like, your friendship is enough. He goes, wallah, bro. He goes, like, all I'm telling you is the truth. Like, I don't know if I can do it, but I'll try my best. And then the guy goes, fuck, bro, you've been saying that for over a week, mate. And that's when the guy started getting frustrated. Yeah, the Middle Eastern guy. Remember, we can't see each other, so I don't even know who the other bloke was that was talking to him. All I knew was he was Middle Eastern, yeah? And our funniest friggin' thing is, when he started getting aggressive, he started swearing. And when the first swear word happened, I said to myself, all right, that's it. It's Salim has now friggin' has to sleep in his bed. You made your bed by becoming friends with this guy, and if this guy turns on you, you have to sleep in your bed. You know? No one's gonna save you. You know, if you step foot in the main, you're gonna get got by this guy's boys first, because you promised this guy that you were gonna see if you could get him 10k. Now this is what happens in prison. If you say the words, I'll see if I can do it. That's it. You have to pay up. No matter what, you're stuck, all right? So if anyone hits you up for money when you get inside prison, just simply say, no, I got nothing, that's it, you know? Don't try to play the rich guy, don't try to go pull money in other boys' accounts, because as soon as the Kuri boys see it, you're gonna get got. As soon as the Muslim or the Islander boys see it, you're gonna get got. The Asian boys, they don't do standovers. Pretty much, their very network works in a way where like they all help each other and they make money with each other. This is how the Asian boys work. Love yous, appreciate yous. But with Salim Mehajer that day, when he was standing there, I could tell everyone was in the back listening in, yeah, because the Middle Eastern guy's voice started coming up. Bro, you said that over a week ago. What are you talking about? And Salim was like, bro, what's your problem? And Salim was very calm, yeah? And then this guy started swearing, bro, the fuck out of you, cunt. As soon as he said that, Salim was like, what? And then he just started going off. This guy started going off. I said, bro, who do you think you are, bro? Huh? Who do you think you are? Like, I told you that my boys will protect you. You promised me by 1, 2, 3, and you're not. And now you're freaking playing little games, bro. And this guy was going off. He was ranting, and I was sitting there going, whoa. And remember, Salim is, throughout the whole time he was there, he was maintaining composure, and he was being nice to everyone. And everyone that was there was asking him for something, yeah? Because obviously, like, he's the guy with the money. I didn't ask him for nothing, and none of the guys on my side asked him for anything, because the guys on my side were all good. We'd been in Segre for a while, so we all had food and everything we needed. But the guys on Salim Mehajer's side, they only just got there, you know, and so they were all trying to bum money off freaking off Salim Mehajer. But the funniest thing is when these guys started going off. Remember, Salim Mehajer had been maintaining composure for the last month, yeah? And then as soon as this guy raised his voice and started swearing, carrying on, this is the first time I heard Salim Mehajer rip into him. What the fuck are you fucking talking about? Huh? Who the fuck do you think you are? This is Salim Mehajer. And I was like, oh shit, this is fucking Salim Mehajer. He's full going on, huh? You think you're the only one with boys? You think you're the only one with boys? Ah, what that? You fucking cocksucker. And I was like, whoa. This guy just called him a cocksucker. Right. In my head, I was like, Salim Mehajer is gone. As soon as he steps foot in the man, he's gone. My thing is like, I give me 1 sec, guys. I gotta do this puzzle. 1 sec. I can't believe I failed the first puzzle. That's how freaking numb my arm is. But yeah, let's get back to Salim. He went off. And you know when he went off, the guys that were next to me were just cracking up laughing. They're like, bro, can you hear Salim? I go, yeah. He's finally lost the plot. Salim Mehajer has lost the plot. And that's what made me laugh. I was like, bro, you heard the gentleman side of Salim Mehajer. You could hear clearly that he was maintaining composure throughout the couple of weeks that everyone was hitting him up for something. And then it just got to the point where he exploded and he went off, and then they were like just going off with each other. And long story short, I left segregation, and I don't know what happened between them two, but Salim Mehajer never walked into the main. And let me tell you something, he's very, very lucky that the officers didn't let him go to the main, because he was gonna get axed, you know. But I give it to him, you know, like he did maintain composure, and he was a gentleman to all the boys that were hitting him up. But as soon as he got pushed into a corner, what happens when someone gets pushed into a corner? They just start swinging. But obviously Salim couldn't swing, so he just started melting off. Now, let's get to Jarryd Haynes. NRL, let's go. Jarryd Haynes comes into prison, boom, big chatter inside prison. Everyone's talking about, woo, you reckon Jarryd will go into the main? You reckon Jarryd to go into the main? I already knew Jarryd wouldn't go in the main, but the bloke at the time was killing it in footy, you know, so I knew there was no way he was going to come into the main. But before we move into that, how stupid was Jarryd to give money to that piece of shit that was saying that he could do something with it if Jarryd could invest, you know, like, you know, if Jarryd was in the main, that bloke that was with him in the boneyard, love you, James, never would have done that to him. So all I know is not to believe things I watch on the news. The news is saying that Jarryd Haynes handed over, I think, $700,000 to this inmate that he was locked up with. Where Jarryd Haynes was, there's a lot of protection there. Majority of the protection go to where Jarryd Haynes is. But Jarryd Haynes cannot be considered a boneyarder or someone that was in protection, because also at that same jail, a few guys who are looking at, who have very small whacks, go there. This is Kuma prison, yeah? But at Kuma prison, you'll find all the pedos, the apiaries, the judges, the cops, all of these dogs all end up over there, yeah? And then also the high profile guys like Salim Mehajer and Jarryd Haynes. And there was a Tongan guy, I forget his name, he played NRL as well. I'm pretty sure that he went there as well. So you can't put Jarryd Haynes on a boneyarder, because that's where he was made to go, and he had to mix with the guys that was there at the time. But let me tell you something straight, there was a lot of boneyarders over there where he was. When he first came in, obviously everyone was wondering what they were wondering, but when we were at Goulburn, 4 of our guys went to Parklea, yeah? And that's where Jarryd Haynes was. And I remember them sending a message up to me, and they were saying, far out, like, this Jarryd Haynes is getting friggin' harassed here. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, bro, everyone's just swearing at him, carrying on, throwing apples at him. And some of these guys were in that OC gang. They were doing it when they were there, you know. But don't get me wrong, like, there was nothing wrong with that, because remember, what Jarryd Haynes was in for was disgusting, yeah? And my thing is, he hadn't been found guilty at the time, so who am I to judge? Yeah, he was still going to trial. That's how it works in prison, yeah? And no one that was there was an older guy. All the boys that were at Parklea were all younger boys, so obviously they were abusing the F out of him. And, you know, from what my guys were telling me, boys were trying to pick apples and stuff at him when he was walking past to go to visits or to go wherever he needed to go, like legals or whatever else, yeah? While Jarryd was there, one of my guys was telling me that he was a gentleman, and he would always talk to the boys with respect. But the other boys would yell out and start swearing and calling him Abraham, and you know how it is. And then as soon as Jarryd got found not guilty, it wasn't long ago, yeah? Right, I swear to you, everyone started sucking up his ass and saying, bro, I knew this, I knew that. And that's what made me laugh. He's like, Jarryd never ever came into the main where all the boys were, but from what my guys said, he did his time peacefully, and he was a gentleman, and all he did was give respect to the people that he spoke to. But everyone that was belittling him had no idea whether he was guilty or not guilty. Yeah, and obviously he went a few times to court before he got found not guilty. But this is what happens. So the reason why I brought up Jarryd Haynes' story is because when Jarryd came in, he wasn't a criminal, all right? But it only took that one little thing that happened to him for him to step inside prison. And guess what happened when he came inside prison? Everyone that supported him, like, turned and walked away from him. You know, like, he had a small group, obviously, that stuck up for him and walked with him, obviously his family and his missus. But this is what I'm telling all you youngsters out there, especially the guys who don't get involved in gangs and stuff. Mate, be careful what you get yourselves into. And I don't care if you're hanging out with girls and you know them. Like, today is the era of technology. And I've seen it with my own friggin' eyes when a girl stole a bag off one of the boys. And then when one of those boys went over there and kicked her door in and started swearing at her, saying, "Where's my bag? Where's my bag?" She started like crying and whatnot, yeah? And she gave the bag back to him, but the bag was empty. It didn't have money in it. So he slapped her, all right? And then when he left, and he said to her, "Make sure you pay my money." When he left, he was going to come back the next day, and she sent him a video, yeah? And listen to this. She set up a camera, right? So when he came back, he didn't realize he was being filmed. And she sent him a video of where he slapped her. And then she said to him, after stealing $2,700 off him, yeah? She said to him, "If you ever come looking for me, I'm going to give this footage to the cops so they can breach your parole and you can go to prison." And this is what I'm telling you. Like, I'm not just talking about gang stuff on my platform, yeah? I'm talking about everything that's got to do with keeping you youngsters safe. When you're with girls, when you're drinking alcohol, when you're doing drugs, all this stuff comes to play. Because remember, I was inside prison, and in 2002, there was an incident that broke out there, yeah? With the Islander boys. To cut a long story short, all the Islander boys ended up jumping one of the other older Islander boys because we were told that he was in for, you know, doing something to a girl. And he got his head caved in, he went to the hospital, and then everyone went back to doing their own thing. Not long after that, like I think it was probably about 10 months or something, yeah? A newspaper article came out and said that he had been released because his missus or his wife admitted that she accused him of these charges because he came and took the kids without asking permission. So remember this. He hospital, stayed in there for about a month in hospital, and then he got released after his wife confessed. So to all you youngsters out there, this is what I'm telling you. Be careful, be careful, be careful. All right? That's why I brought up this Jarryd Haynes incident, because Jarryd Haynes was at the top of his career. He was killing it. Everyone wanted a piece of Jarryd Haynes. But as soon as that incident happened, he went inside prison. You know, and like, I'm not going to talk on this girl and what happened. All I'm going to say is why. You know, you got celebrities who have got big money. One of them includes Jarryd Haynes. But why would you put yourself in that type of position? You know what I mean? Like, when you got money, like, there's people like yourselves who are watching right now, you know, who would love to have the money that Jarryd Haynes and people like Justin Bieber and all that have right now, because you all know that if you had money, you would know what to do with it, yeah? Because you're not living that life. But then you got all these celebrities who are having mental breakdowns, and they're like freaking doing stupid shit, like pissing on the side of buildings and stuff, and they're getting caught on camera. And then you're sitting there thinking, aren't these people rich as F? Like, why can't God bless me with that much money? Like, I would do something good with that money. These guys freaking, they make it up there, and then all of a sudden they act like idiots, and then all of a sudden they start having mental breakdowns. So that's all I'm saying to you youngsters out there. You know, be careful what you get yourselves into, because at the end of the day, it all comes back to bite you. Yeah. Now, before I move forward, I just need all of. He's the type of person that does his time his own way. You know, he never joined any gangs inside prison. Like, obviously he was linked to the UTB and all that in the past, but inside prison, I'm talking about the Oscar that I knew. And the Oscar that I knew, he was never ever playing gangster. He was never ever trying to be a gangster. The guy would just do his thing, and he would do it peacefully. You know, like a lot of boys did their time like Oscar. You know, it's like, how do I put it? They didn't care about the screws or any of the dramas. You know, like if someone stepped on their toes, they would make a move. But for guys like Oscar, they would just smoke Ugdrays and just kick back and relax. You know, like there was it was well known inside prison to the point where screws used to blast Oscar. I'll never forget it. He was smoking with one of the Aussie boys named Nathan Mehajer, yeah? And they were smoking under a towel. So what they do, they used to put a towel over themselves and then they would smoke. And the screws would never run in, obviously, because there's too much inmates and it would cause a ruckus, yeah? And and all of a sudden, a thing came over the intercom, or not the intercom, like the big microphone, and they said, Tahuima and Mehajer, stop smoking drugs under that towel. And it was a thing where everyone just started cracking up laughing. And I remember when they came out of the towel, they were looking like that, and then they just both started laughing as well, you know. But the screws didn't run in and try to stop them from doing anything. The screws knew what they were doing, but just to have a laugh, the screws said that over the loudspeaker. So before I got to Goulburn, there was already tension in the Islander yard. Yeah, remember, Moses has now left the Islander yard, and he was the one that was taking care of all the Islanders. He was the leader, and he was the one that everyone looked up to. But then he turned religious, and when Moses turned religious, no one did anything, obviously, because he's got a gangster background. So pretty much everyone just went with the flow. Moses would do his religious stuff, and no one would dare speak out of school, because even though Moses went religious, he was still doing his training sessions and sparring people, and nobody wanted to get on the other side of him when they had to spar, you know. So when Moses left, love your profile, appreciate you. When Moses left, Oscar, he didn't step up to the plate and take over the yard. Oscar, like I told you, he was doing his time. He always done his time in peace. But all the boys that was in there was mostly Tongan boys. And then there was a Fijian guy who was co-e's with Oscar Tahuima. His name was Millie, yeah? And when they were there, these were the guys that ate well. So remember when I told you, when I first got to Goulburn Correctional Centre, there was boys who were the boys who trained every day. Then there was boys who did education. There was boys that went to work. And then there was the junkie boys. And then obviously Oscar's side and Oscar's crew was like the boys who lived well. You know, every week they had steak and all that. This was the era of meat being sold inside prison. So in prison, back when I was there with Oscar, they used to sell ice cream and meat, like the best food. And then all of a sudden, the jail commissioner took all the luxury food off us, and that was it for that. But Oscar and Baz were on different levels. Obviously, Oscar's old school. Everybody knows his last name. So the Tahuima name, for all of you around the world that don't know this, the Tahuima last name was a big name on the outside and inside, because they got a lot of brothers, yeah? And Oscar and Cube are the oldest brothers. These were the two that was at Goulburn when this situation happened. Just those two Tahuima brothers. Baz Kavanagh, he was on my level at the time. We were both young guns coming up in the prison system. And when we both got to Windsor, we were both there, and we were like the frontline soldiers for the Islanders, you know. Back at Windsor, there was a guy named Charles. Big Charles was Tongan, and he was a machine. He was like our delegate at Windsor. Very good delegate, and he was a gentleman as well, you know. And Baz and I were like the ones that used to go and fight for the Islanders, when we would be the ones that will go and stand in the front line if any situation happened. So yeah, to everyone that was sending me messages and saying, is Baz a soldier? Yes, he was a soldier, a frontline soldier for the Islanders. But to everyone that was asking me if he was a Trump for the Islanders, no, he wasn't a Trump for the Islanders. But he was a frontline soldier for the Islanders. So fast forward to when Moses left and Oscar is now in the yard. Oscar's side is the side that was living Lux, yeah? A situation occurred with Cube and Baz, where a ball rolled over to Cube and he kicked it. And this is while the boys were playing squash, yeah? And Cube is very hot-headed. He doesn't really care about anyone or anyone's opinion. He'll just tell it how it is. So on this day, pretty much he put it on Baz, or try to treat him like a little shit, you know. And Baz was not going to have it, obviously, because even though Cube is older than him and has got a bigger reputation than him, Baz had spent many years being a frontline soldier for the Islanders, like myself. I was there. We both came up in the system when this was happening during the racial wars, you know. So obviously Baz did have legs to stand on, and then this situation occurred where Baz like spoke up when Cube arced up, you know. As soon as Cube arced up at Baz spoke up, and then boom, Cube tried to attack Baz, and then Oscar jumped in, and pretty much they jumped Baz, yeah. And then they got separated. Baz went to Segra. Baz was then asking the officers to come back to the yard, like he was all good. It was just a incident where it was too hot and everyone was freaking just angry that they couldn't be at home with their family, you know. Love your profile. So the Screws ended up thinking, you know what, Baz has been here with the Tahuima brothers for a long time, for a couple of years now. So he wouldn't talk rubbish to us, you know, like, yeah, let's let him back in. So they let Baz back in. Now, to all you youngsters out there, how I said to you guys about boys who are supposed to be close and then they turn on each other, this here's the story right now, yeah? So what happened was, you know what? Let me grab this phone so I can talk to you properly, explain it properly. So what happened was, after that incident, Baz came back in, yeah? And when he came back to the yard, a lot of moldy boys started coming, all right? But the thing is that nobody knows is a lot of moldy boys were in the yard when Baz got jumped, and they didn't back Baz up. So this is where it comes down to it. I heard one of the crew boys on the video, that car that I was telling you about, yeah, he was telling a story about how if you're outnumbered and if you go on with it and you get jumped, is that a shit go? Yeah, of course it's a shit go, but what Carr was saying is it's prison, so it can't be a shit go. It's racial wars. You know, and if it's not racial wars and it's internal dramas, it doesn't matter. It's prison. You know, you want to be a hard guy, you're going to get got. Like, you can't go to the shit go. Like, a shit go is a good go, because in prison, it's all about being on top. It's all about your reputation. It's all about making sure everybody knows you're not the person to be effed with, yeah? So when Carr was saying these things, and I was listening to it this morning because someone sent me his video, yeah? I thought to myself, you know what? He's 100% right. You know, like, you can't friggin' say it's a shit go because it's prison. You know, like, the amount of times that I have been jumped inside prison, like, I could have said it was a shit go, but I never said it once. I've been jumped so many times, it's not funny, yeah? And yeah, I did well every time I got jumped, but that's not the point. The point is I copped it on the chin. Why? Because it's jail, you know? When I got stabbed inside prison, I didn't snitch on the guys that stabbed me in, and when I was getting jumped by the Kuri boys, and then when I got jumped by the Lebo boys, like, I could have made things easier for myself, but I didn't, you know? Because why? Because I was living the gangster life. And so like car, I'm the same, you know? It's not a shit go, it's prison. You know, you do what you need to do. So when Baz got jumped, he was the same. He copped it on the chin, it's prison, you know? He came back out to the yard, and now he was telling off all the all the Māori boys for not having his back when he got jumped. But at the same time, they weren't trying to swindle any moves. They were just cruising, yeah? And still Oscar and his side were on top. And let me tell you something about Melly. Melly's Fijian, and he's Oscar's Kowi. And to all of you guys who don't know what Oscar Tahuima and Melly went in for, they were Kowis, yeah? There was a police officer that got, and these boys were not the ones that pulled the trigger, but they were there when it happened, yeah? And sadly, these boys ended up copping a big whack, yeah? And a big whack for something they didn't even do. And this is a lesson to all you youngsters out there, yeah? Oscar Tahuima, Cube Tahuima, and Melly, these guys did not pull the trigger. They were just there in the car at the time. And I remember when they were telling me the story, they were explaining how all they did was jump out and run. You know, their Kowi, who I'm not going to mention, he was the one that pulled the trigger, and obviously he got longer than the rest of them. But this is what's going to happen to you guys if you guys keep doing what you're doing, you know? It doesn't matter if you're not doing anything. If you're there and you're in and amongst it, you're going to be charged along with the rest of them, right? That's how it works. So with Oscar and his side living Lux, and in Baz now starting to have boys that are coming, yeah? The Māori boys, by the time I got there, I think it was 2008 I got there. By the time I got there, I had a census of 10 years. So I had to serve 7.5 years on the bottom, but 10 years altogether. I ended up serving that whole 10 years. But my point is, when I got there, I could see that there was tension all over the yard. And there was a dear brother of mine named Afile Sevilla. When I got there, I was saying to him, far out, is this how it is? Those boys eat well, and the rest of the yard just kick back and watch. And he was like, Afile was like, well, I don't even want to talk about it, so that's how it works here, you know? So yeah, there's no malice when I'm telling this point of view. Is pretty much that's how prison was for the Islanders back then until I took over. And when I took over, everything was good for the Islander boys, yeah? So remember, I am now there. Baz Kavanagh has now gathered a lot of Māori boys under his wing, and he was training them, yeah? And I remember I was standing there that day when Baz came over to me and he said to me, hey bro, I'm gonna go and offer Oscar out for a one-on-one. And I said, oh, what? What do you mean? He goes, bro, that situation when they jumped me, him and his brother, bro, I'm not gonna let that go. And I remember saying to Baz, bro, that happened a while ago. Like, why did you hold the grudge for this long? Why didn't you take care of it? You've been in the yard with him this whole time. I already knew that Baz was trying to swindle moves, yeah. And this is what it comes down to you younger guys, you know, influential people that get into your ear. Baz was very influential towards the Māori boys, yeah. So all the Māori boys that came there, they all thought that Baz was the guy to follow. They didn't realize Baz wasn't a chump. He wasn't a leader, you know. All he was a frontline soldier. And there's a big difference between a frontline soldier and a chump, yeah. Moses was a chump. And a lot of the boys that were under him were either frontline soldiers or his right and left hand man. You know, that's how the ladder is when it comes to gang-related stuff. So when the Māori boys were following Baz and training with him, they finally started doing this thing where they would praise Baz you know, for being a loving older brother. But mind you, it made me laugh because they were all the same age as Baz, you know, and I knew what Baz was doing, but like obviously it's none of my business that this is his thing. But that day when he asked me, when he told me that he was going to offer Oscar for a one-on-one, I remember all I said to him was these few words, because mind you guys, Baz can fight. Like this brawl I'm about to tell you is about, it's not the only one that he's had with the Tahuimas. This is just the main one, yeah? And I've been with him through thick and thin, and yeah, he goes on with it. He's not the type to backpedal, yeah? And he represents the Māori's heart out. And Oscar Tahuima, he's Tongan. So what happened was, after he said that to me, I said to him these few words. Bro, if you're going to have a one-on-one with him, you better be careful. Oscar's got a big right hand. If he gets you with that right hand, you're going to sleep. And I laughed it off, and he goes, nah, it's all good, I got this. And I realized at that moment when he walked off, he was serious. Because I thought like, mate, it's almost muster. He can't be like trying to do something now. So I gathered my stuff and I went to go have a shower. And in the showers that day was me, Melly, Leka, Tufi, and Oscar. Yeah, we were all in the showers. I was already in the shower. I was in my undies already showering. So was the other boys. We were all in our undies and we were all showering. And Oscar was in his towel and he was talking to the Muslim boys across the other side, yeah. And then Baz walked in. And Oscar had his back to Baz, yeah. And let me tell you, let me put this up and explain it properly. All right. So Baz walks in. Oscar's like this, talking to one of the Muslim boys across the other side. And as soon as Baz walked in, bang, on his back, started going to town on Oscar's back. Oscar turns like this, and as he turned like that to cover up, Hone, one of the other Māori boys, came in, started going at Oscar from the bottom. So Baz is coming from the top, Hone is coming from the bottom. This is why I got big respect for that Millie. You know the Fijian one? Bro, when I say he's short, like he is freaking short. Like, you know, like, I don't even know how short he is, but very short, yeah? Bro, did you know what he did? Millie left his shower. Remember, he's having a shower. He's in the middle of having a shower in his undies. He jumped out of his shower and he went and tried to back up Oscar. And he's so small, like, mate, there's nothing much that Millie could do because he's a small guy, yeah? Everyone in the island yard was all big boys, yeah? But this is how big of a heart Millie is. As soon as Oscar started getting goal, he jumped straight in. He went to throw it here, and then one of the other boys that was with what's his name? Baz and Hone at the time, his name was Chad, clocked Millie before Millie could jump in. Then Millie starts trying to swing punches at Millie, at Chad, but Chad, like, obviously he's a big boy, and then he started going to town on Millie. So remember, now Chad's going at Millie, and Oscar's getting got from the top and the bottom, yeah? And I was in my shower, so I walked out of my shower because I didn't know whether they were just getting them or they were going to try to get all of us. So I'm there protecting myself. So I'm standing there in my undies, and like I'm getting ready for whatever's going to be going on. And I remember seeing Tupi, because Tupi was across from me. He steps out of the showers as well. So he's like trying to figure out, like, bro, it's like, who's getting got here? Like, he's trying to watch his own back as well, yeah? And while the boys were going to town on him, Oscar like rips himself backwards, and then Baz and Hone jump back. So now Oscar's here, and he puts his hands up, and you got Hone here, Baz here, and Chad. He just finished like giving it to Millie, and now jump back. Now it's them three and Oscar. Like Millie had had already got rushed by Chad, yeah, and Chad was like still standing there shaping up at Millie, so Millie couldn't come over and try to help Oscar. But there was another Fijian guy. His name was Debo. Bro, this guy was massive. He was big, yeah. As soon as this broke out, he turned around and as Hone and Baz stepped backwards, Debo went to step forward, and Baz just went whack, got him boof straight here with a Isha, yeah. As soon as he got him, Debo went down and he started holding his chest like up there. And I was standing at the showers, and then Oscar was like standing there like this. And as soon as Baz and Hone went to come forward again, boom, he threw a big right hook. And And I swear to you, if he got them with that right hook, see you later. But when he threw this big right hook, all of them, like, I stepped back and he had missed, and he started shouting, "Come on, you fucking dogs!" And he was going on, "Just come on!" Boom! He threw a big left hook, and they all jumped back. Like, as they all jumped back, I was like, "Bro, what's going on?" Like, the screws all come running, and they all started going, "Everyone, get there, get there!" And the gates were getting open from outside. The gates were getting open from the other side. The gates were getting open from the showers, and all the screws were like rushing in. Yeah. By the time all the screws came in, Baz, Hone, and Chad quickly chucked their earshades, opened the door, and then they quickly like ran outside, like, pretended like they had nothing to do with it. And Oscar was like bleeding from his back, you know, like all over the place. All I could see was just like he was drenched with blood. And as soon as the screws got in there, they're like, "Everyone on the wall, everyone on the wall!" And all of us there that we know, Andy's like, "Get out of here, bro!" He's trying to grab our towels. All right, grab your towels, and walk outside. They looked at Oscar, and Oscar was like bleeding hard out, yeah. Then Oscar walks over to the shower and he puts his head under the shower. When he puts his head under the shower, all I could see was his blood going down his back, yeah? And remember, Debo was still holding his chest because he had got in the chest. And he's a big boy, yeah? I walk out, and as soon as I walk out, I seen the boys that were involved in it, like just doing laps, pretending like they had nothing to do with it. And I walked out and I was kicking back, and then and Oscar was inside in the showers. He wouldn't listen to no one. Like, he didn't give a F who was like talking to him, but he went on with it. Like, he threw his ears. Like, lucky none of them but he wanted to fight, but as soon as they got him, they didn't fight back, you know. And obviously I got along with Hone really well. I got along with Baz, and I got along with Oscar, and I got along with Oscar and his team. But this thing was an internal drama that was brewing before I even got to Goulburn Prison, yeah? So as soon as the screws came in, they grabbed Oscar, and they handcuffed him, and they took him out. And the other screw was saying, "Man, he goes, man, he's got holes in him. Take him to the nurse. Take him to the nurse." So they told him to step to the side. So they didn't bring Oscar out. They took him to the outside to go towards the nurse. They radioed up for whoever was watching the footage, and all they seen in the footage was those three boys, Baz, Hone, and what's his name, and Chad, come out of the showers after the incident happened. So they came in, and I remember I was handcuffed along with all the other boys, and then they came and they took Chad, Baz, and Hone, and Orbs. These were the four boys that got taken, yeah? And they thought that these four boys were involved in getting Oscar because they were the ones doing laps. But Orbs had nothing to do with it. And I know for a fact that Baz may have given him the heads up that something was going to happen, but he definitely wasn't involved in planning anything. Like, Baz had done this all by himself, you know. And I realized at that very moment, because remember, Baz told me he was going to offer him out for a one-on-one. So all I was thinking is, there was going to be a good one-on-one in the afternoon. That's all I thought. I thought nothing of it. But when he went and grabbed these ones and he went to town on Oscar, I realized this guy must have friggin' thought about it again and realized, you know what, I'm not going to take the chance of being laid out by Oscar, so I'm just going to go to town on him, you know what I mean, and get my revenge. Because remember, Cube was the one that started the dramas with Baz, and then Oscar jumped in. So Baz had been waiting for his revenge this whole time, you know. And and then when Hone and Chad got there, along with all the other Māori boys, and started training with Baz, he swindled his move, you know. Started being the influential islander that's been in there for ages. Started using his power to his advantage by grooming all the boys that were just coming in. You know, one of those boys was Hone. He had just come in and he was looking at a big whack, which is what he got, a big whack for his manslaughter. And Baz had groomed him to be under his wing, and then that's why Hone friggin' got involved in it. And I heard from everyone in the system saying that, Hone told us he had nothing to do with it. Hone said he was just there and he tried to stop it. Look, I got big love for Hone. I was there, you know, so I'm going to just tell it how it is. All right. Hone was heavily involved in it, and obviously he was backing up Baz. So it is what it is. The boys did what they had to do to get their to help Baz get his revenge. Now remember, to all you younger generation out there, this is what you guys are doing right there, right now. You are helping all these older boys and these other gang to get either their revenge or to make their money for them. This is what you're getting yourself involved in right now. Yeah. And after that incident, all three boys had issues throughout the jail system. Everywhere they went, they had to watch their back. No longer could they walk and be left alone. No longer could they do their time peacefully. Why? Because the Tahuima name is big in jail and outside. And obviously all the Tahuima brothers had the backing from all the Tongan boys and all the network that they had built throughout the years. So everyone was now gunning for these three boys. Luckily for these boys, they had gone to segregation and after this incident. But one of the biggest things that I wanted to explain about Oscar during this situation, I got taken to the nurse's office on the same day this incident happened. And when I got into the nurse's office, there was 6 squad in there, 3 inside with Oscar and 3 that was just standing outside. And I had to walk past Oscar to go see the nurse. And as I was walking, the screw was saying to me, fucking hell, man. He goes, bro, that Tahuima, he's a machine, eh? And I said, oh yeah. I was thinking, how do you know he's a machine? You weren't even in the showers when it happened. So in the showers, there's no cameras, all right? Outside of the showers, there's cameras everywhere. You can't do anything stupid. But in the showers is where pretty much everyone gets got, you know? So when I was telling you guys a story about Luke Akawala about a month ago, when he got jumped by his own OC mates, that happened in the showers as well. So this incident happened in the same showers that incident happened with the OCs and Luke Akawala. So what happened was, when I walked past and the screw said to me, he's a machine, I was thinking to myself, how do you know? And I go, what do you mean he's a machine? And these are the exact words that came out of that screw. He goes, man, they're stitching him up in there. He goes, he's so lucky that the blade Baz used was small. He goes, an inch or 2 longer. He goes, mate, it would have hit him in the right place and he wouldn't be able to walk today. I was like, seriously? He goes, yeah, he's very, very lucky. And I go, what did he say? He goes, mate, that's what I'm telling you. He goes, they're stitching him up. And when I walked past, Oscar's hands was on a table, and they were stitching his back there, and he was just sitting like this. And he was going, just get it over and done with. Hurry up, get it over and done with. Get the fuck off me. This is the way he was talking to the nurses and the screws that were there. I don't want to hear rubbish. Stop talk to me about rubbish. That's Oscar's gangster coming out. Because remember, I told you, Oscar's the type who just does his time peacefully, doesn't get involved in any of the politics or rubbish that goes on in prison. Yeah. But as soon as that incident happened, the gangster in him came out. Yeah. He was like ready to go. And the screw was telling me, mate, because they're trying to stitch him up. They got 2 nurses in there trying to stitch him up, and all he's saying is, I'm gonna kill these dogs. I'm gonna kill these dogs. That's what he kept saying, And I was like, whoa. Anyway, the point of this whole story, boys, to all you younger generation in there, is the fact that this is what happens inside prison. It doesn't matter how long you're in there for. Doesn't matter how much of a big name you got. Remember, Oscar's got a big name. Baz Kavanagh's got a big name. It doesn't matter who you roll with, who you run with, who you're doing things for. If you're living this type of life, you're always going to be watching your own back. You're always going to be wondering, is today going to be my day? And even to all you people that are working 9-to-5 jobs, but you're in and amongst it just a little bit, this is what's going to happen to you guys when you guys go inside prison. You're going to be involved in rubbish like this, and you don't even mean to be involved in it. You don't even want to be involved in it. That's what I'm saying to you guys. When I'm speaking about these stories, it's because I was there when these stories happened, or I was in and amongst all this rubbish that I'm talking about. And so I'm explaining it from my perspective, And when these things happen, it was things that I thought about afterwards, and I said to myself, wow, don't tell me that that this is the life that I'm going to be living inside prison, Don't tell me that these are the type of people that I'm going to be mixing with for the rest of my life, obviously because I was living the gang life, And when the incident happened with me, I was shocked. I was like, whoa, I've done so much stuff for these fucking young islanders, and then they forgot about all the good that I done from them because they were high on drugs and they tried to be the kings of the yard. You know what? I dealt with that situation. I've come outside and I've cleaned up all the rubbish that was said about me and my team on social media. And now my friggin' goal is to give back to the community. And how am I doing that? Is by sharing my story with the hope that all the younger generation learn from it. And there's a big story to this situation that happened with Oscar and Baz that went on for years, yeah? But I'm not going to explain that now. This will be told in full. All I'm going to say is, for those of you who was trying to say Baz was the Trump of the Islander yard, no, he was never the Trump of the Islander yard. He was only a frontline soldier for the Islander yard, and you could consider him maybe a Trump of the Māori boys. That's pretty much about it. But yes, he was a soldier, and yes, Oscar was the type that if you effed with him, he would come at you and he wouldn't take a backward step. But at the end of the day, he was the type that always did his time peacefully. And he said it to me once. He goes, bro, I really don't care about anything bigger. He goes, as long as I get my high, he goes, I'm good. That's how a real Oscar is. He'll just tell you how it is. He won't beat around the bush. Anyway, before I finish up on here, I just want to send